Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm chatting with Rudi Fronk from Seabridge Gold. Today we are going to discuss the KSM project, which in my view is the most exciting undeveloped mining project in the world. I'll give you guys a warning here. If you Google the company and look up their resource estimates from proven and probable all the way down to inferred, don't be surprised if your eyes pop out of your head. Today we get into the discussions that Seabridge is having with major mining companies about a potential joint venture. Also, how Seabridge views the risk of managing and financing their own projects. And we get into how Rudi views the gold market and what it's going to take for capital to start flowing back into the equity names. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. I'm joined with Rudi Fronk from Seabridge. Rudi, thanks for doing this.
Great to be back in the chair next to you, Steve.
So since the last time we spoke, you talked about how you thought gold was going to go higher, was trading around 2650. It's been flat since. I know it's only been about 3 months. And at the time, you were of sort of the thought process that we'd see Western investors start to pour in. Now, obviously, we've had Donald Trump get elected, which I think might have surprised a few people. And now he's talking about some pretty big changes. What's your read right now in the gold market?
We think it continues higher. The gold market right now, in terms of pricing, is being driven by Eastern demand, central banks, sovereign wealth funds, and they're buying gold as part of their de-dollarization scheme. They're looking to get out of the dollar, selling their treasuries, and putting some of those proceeds back into physical gold. So we don't see that stopping anytime soon. We see gold continuing to track hard.
So I got to ask you about one of the big major names. Barrick recently had their second largest mine in Mali shut down. And I know you are talking to a lot of the majors, and I'm not asking you to specifically comment on what happened with Barrick. But what I'm wondering is, from those conversations that you have with some of the major companies, do you get the sense that they are now starting to lean towards safer jurisdictions in this geopolitical environment?
They should be. I mean, political risk is real in our space. I built mines in my career that have been expropriated, which is why one of the guiding principles when we formed Seabridge 25 years ago was to focus only on North America. You look at Barrick, obviously that's unfortunately what's happened to them in Mali. But then again, they turn around and what's the next project? It's going to be in Pakistan. It's not going to get any easier for them as they focus on those types of jurisdictions.
Okay, so let's turn the discussion to Seabridge. In December, you guys had some developments at KSM related to challenges on your sustainability status designation. What can you tell us?
Well, we worked hard to get that designation. We spent over $400 million over the 3-year period on early site construction. We then filed our application to the government in January of 2024 for that designation. And along with that application went in strong letters of support from the Iskut Nation, the Tahltan Nation, the Gitxsan Nation, the towns of Terrace, Stewart, New Hazelton, and Sitters. So we did our work to get that designation. We did receive that designation in July of 2024. And then a few months later, 2 challenges came in against that designation, claiming that the government was unreasonable in granting us that designation. And that designation was important to us. It was a major de-risking for the asset to ensure that the permits that we hold now do not expire in July of 2026. You can imagine that any big company looking at KSM as an opportunity, they want to make sure that they have a clear path to first production by eliminating any risk of the permits expiring. So we were granted that designation, and then there were challenges that came in. What these 2 groups are going to have to do is show that the government was unreasonable in granting us substantially started designation, which we think is almost an impossible road for them to haul. We spent over $400 million. That's more than any company has spent looking to achieve substantially started designation. We have the support of all the important indigenous groups and the local communities, and we've done the work.
So since the last time we spoke, you mentioned that there were 6 different majors that you were chatting with about potentially joint venturing with. Now, I know you can't get specific as much as we would love that and all the views it would give if you broke the story with us. But high level, is there any color you can give us on how those conversations are progressing?
Sure. So we've said it publicly, since substantially started, we now are advancing terms and discussions with 3 of the majors. So we kind of filtered it down. And I will tell you that as a result of substantially started designation, it has piqued the interest from the companies looking at KSM. So we're now sitting down discussing deal structure and terms and hope to move into a transaction in the not too distant future. What I will tell you is that fortunately for us, these two petitions that have been filed is not impacting our discussions with potential partners.
When you have these conversations with the majors, do you have any sense of what boxes they're looking to check off in terms of what the big picture looks like for them when they approach? Because this is a big project. I've described it before the last time we had you on as what I think is the most exciting undeveloped mining project in the world, and I think that that's just basic math. What are the things that the majors talk about when they talk about Seabridge and why it's attractive to them?
Well, they all have different boxes to check, but it seems the common boxes with each of these companies is jurisdiction. Canada's well liked by most of the majors because of its safe environment to operate. Strong local support, which we have, Indigenous partners and local communities. Scale. Obviously, KSM is of the size that there's very few companies out there that have the technical, financial, and social wherewithal to build and operate it. And then also, obviously, economics. KSM is one of these projects. When you look at our numbers, KSM will be producing gold in the lowest quartile of costs in the industry.
How important is that technical side when you're sitting down negotiating with these parties? Is there a sense that you would take less money or like a less attractive mathematical deal from one group than another because you like the technical side of the company?
Well, I think you will always have a ranking of companies you're speaking with, and I have my own internal ranking, as does my team, in terms of the three companies, which would be the best player for us. And hopefully you can get terms with that best player that we can say yes to and move on.
Now, I'm sure a lot of investors watching this interview right now and that either are investors in Seabridge or are considering investing in it are wondering, have you guys had any discussions about trying to go into the project outside of a joint venture and just trying to effectively self-fund it using standard bank financing and bonds, that sort of stuff?
So another guiding principle that we had 25 years ago was never to build an operating line on our own. So no, we have advanced the project each year. Substantially started was a big advancement in de-risking. We continue to collect data that's required to complete a bankable feasibility. The next logical step is complete a bankable feasibility on the project. And that would be phase one of any partnership discussion that we have in place now.
How far away are we from a construction decision being made?
Well, if we can press the button on a big kickoff to feasibility now, you're probably looking at 2 years to complete bankable feasibility, and then probably another year to secure the funding to build a mine, and then you're probably looking at 5 years of construction at that.
Okay, so let's move away from KSM, and I want to bring up the Courageous Lake project, which seems massive on its own. It's got a pre-feasibility study released last year that outlined a 201,000 ounce per year production profile over a 12-year mine life, which is only based on mining 30% of the resource estimate. I'm curious here, have you guys considered putting a project like that into production before focusing on KSM?
As George Bush says, read my lips, we will never build a line R. But that's an interesting project. So I think when you look at Courageous Lake today, the value that we have on our share price, which probably is next to nothing, we need to find a way to get value to our shareholders on this asset. I mean, this asset at $1,850 gold has an NPV north of $500 million US, and it's zero in our marketplace. So we're now looking at what is the best way to unlock value with Courageous Lake. We are having discussions with potential acquirers, with potential joint venture partners, and perhaps something we're also looking at is perhaps a spin out of this asset into our shareholders in a new public vehicle. So stay tuned. We've done a lot of work on that already, and I think 2025 would be the year we push the button to try and get that value to our shareholders that they should receive.
In terms of your portfolio, are there any other assets that you think are worth mentioning or worth commenting on right now?
Yeah, the one I think we're most excited about right now is the Iskut property, a project we acquired in 2016. When the gold market went into the skids after 2011, 2012, valuations got decimated. And we stepped up and bought a public company called Snip Gold that gave us 100% interest in the Iskut property. We've been kind of kicking around looking at what the opportunities are. We bought this project with the belief that it could be another KSM. Last year, we tagged a big gold copper porphyry deposit called Snip North. We had a number of drill holes from the surface running upwards of 500 meters of continuous length of grades of gold and copper that are similar to what we have at KSM. We think we have another tiger by the tail there. We're going to spend about $15 million Canadian this year on exploration, with the idea that by the end of this year's drill program, we'll be in a position to announce an initial resource at the Snip North prospect.
Any sense of how many meters of drilling that'll look like?
That's probably 15,000 meters of drilling.
So last question for you. If I'm an investor watching the story, whether I'm currently long the stock or thinking about hopping in, what am I looking out for out of the company over the next 12 months?
Partnership deal on KSM. I think that will be a significant unlocking of value very quickly in the marketplace. There's a lot of skepticism we'll look at a partnership. I believe we will. I have 95% of my head berth in Seabridge common shares. So I'm motivated to get a deal done. Also, I think at the same time, exploration success. I think the market at some point will start to pay for exploration success. And I think Iskut and Snip North can deliver on that. And then last but not least is the gold price. Right now, I've been in business for over 40 years. I've never seen a bigger disconnect between the value of gold mining stocks and the value of gold. Gold equities are trading at a huge discount to the gold price. We think that's going to change. We think the Western investor will come back into the space. And if you look at how our share price performs when the gold equity market is strong, we outperform the gold price increase by a significant margin. We have a 25-year track record. The gold price is going higher, and we start to get the focus of the Western investor coming back to the bull space. Gold equities, especially Seabridge, will go much higher.
I'm a big believer that what we need in just the gold equity space in general are a couple of companies that really rip. And not only do they rip, but they also develop a real following amongst retail investors, so that it's one thing to see a story like Great Bear or Philo Mining that goes from pennies to multiple dollars and taken out. But if it's just a select group of people in the mining industry who own that stock, it doesn't really do anything for the industry because nobody really knows about it. But we kind of see, we know, that's part of the reason I came down here to interview you live in person. We see it on the views when we interview you that there is a huge following in this name. And I think that it would be great for the space to see you guys have that success and get to production. So I'm rooting for you guys, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us and do this, because I believe that you guys are going to be one of those names that once you get that joint venture partner and get this thing into production, it's going to be a name that is going to be a household mining name that everybody's going to know. And we're really happy that you're sitting down with us prior to doing that.
Well, Steve, from your lips to God's ears, I hope. And thank you for the opportunity of interviewing today, and I look forward to our next time.
All right, everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Thanks, everyone.